Got the button pressed?
All set to go.
Good to go.
Just
Cool.
just to start, Jim, do you remember your first guitar?
My first guitar? Well, my father had an old acoustic, and now this really makes me sound old, but I got a pickup for it, and my uncle was into radios and stuff, and he took an old radio and made an amplifier out of it where you turn the volume up. You could put an input jack on, and I could plug the acoustic into that. So that was like the first time I heard electric through my through the pickup with a guitar with a pickup on it. So that was pretty cool. And then I got a Japanese Kent guitar at a swap shop. That was my really first electric guitar that had pickups on it. And then eventually when I started, I played that for a while, and we had high school bands and stuff. And then eventually finally got a Telecaster in the mid '60s. That was my first Tele, and then I stayed playing Telecaster from then on out. Always played Tele.
Now, you grew up in the Woodstock area, and I believe it gave you access to witnessing some wonderful musicians at work in your younger days. Any standout memories there?
Yeah, I have great memories because in Woodstock, back then, of course, everywhere there was there was no video and stuff. It was live, no computers, so live music was really strong, and there was clubs in a little small town in Woodstock which you can drive through in 10 minutes, if not less, 5 minutes. It's a small little village, but there was like 6 clubs, from one end to the other, and they were all rocking 6 nights, 7 nights a week with live music. And Paul Butterfield lived here with his blues band, and I saw Dave Sanborn starting out when he was with Butter, and he would play by himself with another band with Buzz Featon, who was a big influence on me on guitar. Buzzy Featon, Dave Sanborn had their own band when the Butterfield band was off the road, and I lived when I got out of high school, I lived in a place called, believe it or not, Peter Pan Farm, and Butterfield lived there. It was across from a big field, and Butterfield's band all lived there. They would practice all the time. Full Moon, Buzzy Featon, all those guys lived there, so I got to see them all play, and Van Morrison lived near the neighborhood, and there was a big field across from the field. In the field were these things called sound outs. When I was in high school, that we would go every week. Every couple of weeks they would have them, and they were the beginning of the Woodstock Festival. Van Morrison would play there, and Tim Hardin. These bands, different great bands would come up. God, it was great Tele players. The Blues Magoos, Big Apple Blues Band from D.C. I got to see all these great musicians play out in the woods, and that really spawned the real Woodstock Festival, which happened, a little bit about, half an hour down the line from us near Monticello area, White Lake, but those were the real Woodstock festivals. They were called sound outs. So I was lucky enough to get influenced by some great musicians.
Sure. Is it still very much a musicians' community there?
Oh, yeah. The guys in the band still live here. Levon's here, and Garth, and you got Tony Levin, who plays on a lot of my records, who plays Peter Gabriel and has his own band, and Pat Metheny has a place here. It's pretty vast. I mean, there's a lot of jazz players, B-52s. I mean, if I think about it, there's a lot of people that live up here in the mountains because it's only about 100 miles from New York City.
Yeah.
So you can kind of live in the nice Catskill Mountains, and it's laid back. It's very, very mellow.
Now, you also spent some time in Nashville in the 70s, I believe?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was working with... I did an album we had a group called St. Joe Run with Robert Lee and Ben Keith, the guy who produces all the Neil Young records, and been with Neil plays pedal steel with Neil Young he's been with him probably for over 20 years. He took me to Nashville. We just decided, we did a record up here in Woodstock, decided to drive to Nashville when I was in my early 20s, like 21 or 22, and he brought me there, and we both got gigs working with songwriters, and then he got a gig with Neil Young. I went on the road with Johnny Paycheck when I was like 22, and started playing with him, and that was pretty wild. He was in his wild times, and then I ended up working with doing a lot of session work, like, and then doing some road work with James Talley, and it was an interesting time for me. I got to really learn, how to be a backup musician and all that kind of stuff, and work in the studio doing songwriter stuff.
So you look back on that time now as an important time in terms of your grounding as a musician?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Very much. And then I moved. I went from there to I went to L.A. for a little bit and did not like that. It was pretty crazy for me. And then I moved to Nashville, and Atlanta, and that was really that's where I really got my chops, I think, really together, because we would play. I worked for a studio for a while, and then for a couple of years, and then as a session player, me and Harvey Brooks and Richard Bell from Janis Joplin Band, we had this band that we did all the session work. But then at the same time, we put a band together and played 5 nights a week, 5 sets a night, a month in each club for years. I did that for 7 to 8 years, and I really, I think that's where I really, really got my honed my chops as a young guy.
Yeah.
You can't buy that. You just got to earn it.
So who were the first guitar players to really inspire you to want to be a professional musician?
Well, I guess if you go right from the front, the great Scotty Moore with Elvis Presley. I mean, when I was like 6 years old, when 6, 7 years old, whenever I heard Elvis Presley on the radio, I heard the Hound Dog leads, and I loved it. And then Chuck Berry, and then from Chuck Berry, of course, we went into the James Burton I used to see him on the Ricky Nelson show, and got to see these guys play guitar, and you hear them a lot because they were on TV, and so then, except for Chuck, and then I guess it goes into the English guys when you get into the that English explosion. Besides the Stones and the Beatles, there was Jeff Beck, the Yardbirds, and of course Eric Clapton, Cream, and that was a whole other thing that was great. But I guess I have to say that one of my favorite guitarists still is Buzz Featon, who lived in Woodstock, and I got to meet the guys in the band in my early days in Woodstock, and Robbie Robertson's playing. I loved that. I loved all the styles, really, from blues rock to rock and roll to Hendrix, to country. I kind of absorbed it all. I really enjoyed it. Jesse Ed Davis, who was with Taj Mahal, I really liked his touch and the way he bent the strings and his vibrato. And I just, when I heard him, I never got to meet him until later on in my career. We got to play together. But I used to just listen to the way he touched the strings on any record he did, and the way his vibrato and his approach. So I would just learn everything I could, and absorb it. And I guess the guy who really turned my head around was Roy Buchanan on the Telecaster. Once I heard him, that was it. I never heard anybody play a Telecaster like that. So once I heard Roy, I went completely nuts. The way he did harmonics, the way he just distorted teletone, and the way he'd make it cry with the volume things, and he played an old 50s. So I had 60s tellies, but so I went in search across the country for an old 50s telly like Roy, and I found one, and I found my 52 in early 1970s, and I've been playing it ever since.
So what were the series of events that led you to become a member of the band? I guess you wouldn't have needed too much persuading to join them?
No, they were one of my favorite groups. They were from here, they lived here, and when I got, of course I was a huge fan in 1960 when 1968 or 69 when Big Pink came out, and I used to see the guys. I actually met Levon back then, and then they went on to do what they did. And when they came back, I moved back from Atlanta, and Levon asked me to join Levon Helm and the All Stars, and so I did. I started playing with him, and then it became just me, Levon. Then Danko was here, so it was just we would go out as a trio, the three of us. And then Richard Manuel moved back, and I just started. One day they said they were going to go out and open up for Crosby, Stills and Nash, and they invited all of them. Garth had moved back, and Levon said, "Come on down, and we're going to play at this local bar." And I went down and sat in, and then they went out on the road with the Cape Brothers, and there was too many guys. They had a full band plus them. They called me up a week later, and then 15 years later, that's what happened. I just stayed with them. So we did a lot of road miles.
Yeah, you sure did.
A lot of playing.
Did you feel a pressure on you at all, having to fill the boots of a guitar talent such as Robbie?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was cool behind it. There was, I guess, a little bit of pressure because the shows when we started, there was no rehearsal. I just went out and played in front of 20,000 people. First show was in Texas. They flew me out, and I was a little bit nervous, I would say, to say the least, without rehearsing. But I knew the material so well, and that as long as I learned his, the way he had written really nice guitar licks to intro the tunes, and a lot of the stuff was worked in, which was easy for me. And then they would just let me solo the way I wanted to solo. So I didn't feel that heavy of a pressure. No, it was cool. They were very open about letting me do my thing, playing the way I play.
Yeah.
I just would play his, like the beginning of Makes No Difference. There's that classic intro.
Mm-hmm.
Bum, 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 bum. All that kind of stuff was all stuff that I knew from Steve Cropper licks to, that double string, two-string sliding things. I've been playing that all my life, and so it was easy for me to do that, and the intro to Walcott Medicine Show and Life's a Carnival, all those are like Croppery kind of, I call him Steve Cropper kind of.
Yeah.
But Robertson was, he really had nice guitar parts written into his songs, and being a great guitarist that he was. But they would let me do my own thing as far as soloing, so it was very loose and very open.
So you never went through any transition period of feeling like a replacement member? You felt like an accepted member of the band right from day one?
I felt like an accepted member, whether the public took a while to accept it. It was like always like in the shadows, I think that was one thing that was one of those crosses you have to bear. You're replacing such a great songwriter and great guitarist. So I was always fighting that. But after a while, after the years went by, and we did some records, and I wrote some tunes for them. I wrote, one of their singles, Remedy, and every record I wrote tunes for them. I think I got more accepted as time went in. But it took a little while. It was a good fight.
I guess that would have been a very important step when you started contributing your own songs to the band.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I felt really good about that on the first Jericho record. That Remedy became one of their biggest singles, and that was really good. Became a top 10 single in Canada. I know in Australia.
Outside of your work with the band, what would be some of your other most memorable musical experiences?
Outside of the work with the band?
Yeah.
Oh, well, getting to work with. I produced an album on Paul Burleson, the great rockabilly guitarist from the Rock and Roll Trio, and on it, I got to choose all the people. Like I worked with Los Lobos.
Yep.
And I got to go down and cut. I got to cut in L.A. with them guys, and then with DJ Fontana on drums from Scotty Moore's band. I got, who else was on that? Kim Wilson. I produced some tracks with him from the T-Bird. Mavis Staples. So getting to work with all these people, and she recorded some of my tunes, and working on that record was an incredible experience for me. And with some of my favorite players, I just got to handpick the guys I wanted to sing on the record, and we did different tracks in different cities. And I got to work with Scotty Moore and DJ Fontana and Keith Richards on a Scotty Moore record, and also back those guys up at Austin. So got to work with my heroes there, which was amazing. Scotty Moore sat and showed me, him and DJ showed me and Rick Danko every Elvis lick. Heartbreak Hotel, I went like this, and the two guys did it. They were a little lit and they were feeling good, and then they went and did this tune, Hound Dog. I went like this, and they showed one night they showed us everything. And it was incredible. It was just great, and that's it. That's the beginning of rock and roll.
Yeah,
right there, right there. So that was great. And working with Mavis Staples, I just did her last record and wrote her single, "Have a Little Faith," and co-wrote it, and got to win the Handy Award for that, and got to play on the whole, on 5 of the tunes. That was a great experience. So I've been pretty lucky. We've had some good ones. We played with Roger Waters when their wall went down.
Yeah.
Band and Ronnie Hawkins, and played with Dylan at the Madison Square Garden, his 60th anniversary.
That's right.
A whole lot of people, just an amazing amount of people. And there's been some really great moments. If I quit now, which I'm not gonna, I could say I've been very lucky and it was a lot of it was through the band, meeting a lot of the appreciation for their music, and I got to meet such great people.
Yeah, it opened a lot of doors.
It opened a lot of doors, and I have to thank all those guys for, just all the people I got to meet through them and play with.
Getting a Handy Award for your songwriting last year, that must have meant a lot to you in terms of recognition for yourself as a writer, not rather than just for your guitar playing?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I was really proud of that, and it was really exciting that that it went to Mavis Staples, who is one of my favorite all-time R&B singers, soul singers. She's phenomenal.
I read mention made of your playing style, which involves using both a pick and your fingers. How did that style come about?
Well, it actually came about by John Hall, a great guitarist in his own right, lived in Woodstock, and I used to go watch him play. He was in a bunch of bands before Orleans and stuff, and he would play around in the local clubs. And I noticed he was using the pick and fingers, and I'm going, man, you can do a lot more stuff like that. You can use your pick and pull up with your fingers and pull up the 2 strings. And I saw that he was doing it, and then when I saw that one video that turned me on to Roy Buchanan, the PBS special, I saw he was using pick and fingers. So I would go out and watch John Hall pull up the strings and use his pick and fingers, and that opened a lot of doors for me. And then, of course, then I would study other guitarists. I learned how to play the Scotty Moore pick and fingers, which is kind of like his version of the Travis picking. It was very raw, very very bluesy, and it just opened up the guitar playing for me.
You've long been an advocate of the Telecaster. What is it about that instrument that makes it so special for you?
Well, it's so damn hard to play. You always, it made you really work hard on it, and but it had these. It was just clear. I loved the sound of the rhythm. I loved the way it looked when I first saw one, and my favorite players played them, and it was just something about it. The way I just liked the guitar. The back pickup had a cut to it. And in the middle, was great for R&B rhythms, and the rhythm pickup was sweet sounding. It was I just liked the look of it, you know, and I liked the way it played, the maple neck. I always played maple necks, and so I was just drawn to it and just stayed with it. You know, everybody used to say, "Oh man, get rid of that thing, get a Stratocaster," you know, or play a Gibson guitar, you know. It's so much easier to play, but they just never really worked for me like a Telecaster. And Telecaster players are their own breed. You know, they've got their own. It makes you play your own kind of style. I mean, the great Albert Lee, and you think of James Burton. You do all that scratchy finger, you know, that chicken picking, and it just makes you play a little differently than other people. And Roy really took it to its limits, and you know, you crank up a Fender amp with them, and they really cut. And you know when a tele player's playing. You know.
Do you think it's a guitar that challenges you more than others?
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It definitely challenges you more, and it makes you work a little harder, which makes you form your own kind of style to draw the tone out of the instrument, and that's a good thing.
Now, you mentioned you've done a bit of production work in your time. Does being a musician yourself work as an advantage when working in production?
I think so. I think you have an idea where the instrument should lay in a mix, and you know what ranges they should be in. So like if you want to use certain instruments in a higher range, so it doesn't get in the way of another instrument that's in more of a mid-range area. You have an understanding of music a little bit better, I think, by being a musician once you get into that, and you have a better feel for the mixes and stuff, because you really need to get your mixing mix. You can ruin a whole record by the mix, you know, and also just getting the magic of catching a good track.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to make that happen. So yeah, I really enjoy it when I do get the chance, and to work with people, and I enjoy that. My last record, A Percolator, I think that one is I think it's the best sounding record yet. Got to work with John Holbrook right from the start, who mixed my last previous record, Remedy. The Percolator record, we worked right together from the start, and he's a great mixer, and he helped co-produce the record with me, and I think it's the best sounding record I've done yet, having him along.
Now that's an entirely instrumental release, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all instrumental, and it's more groove, using drum loops, and more groove, guitar rock, I guess you would call it, groove, funk, jazz, rock, guitar instrumental. It's just a little different. I don't know what you'd call the music. I guess it's as close as I can get to it. Have you been a chance to download any of it?
Not as yet, but I do intend to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Apple iTunes.
Oh, it is it?
Yeah, you can get it on Apple iTunes. You can hear it on my site. There's some live tracks, and there's some samples. The whole Percolator you can download off of my site and listen to it. And of course, you can get the whole record on iTunes.
Fantastic. Excellent.
And on my site.
Has that been a project you've been harboring ambitions to do for a long time?
I decided to change direction a little bit. The other two records, Bigfoot and Remedy, were more blues rock, and I was kind of leaning towards this jam groove thing in Remedy a little bit on some of the instrumentals, but this I went all the way and started using. I wanted to write something brand new and change my musical direction a little bit, and I have an amazing band now with Rodney Holmes, who's probably one of the best drummers on the planet. He did the record on Percolate. He played the drums on the record, and he has joined up with me now. He used to be in the Steve Kimmock band, and Mitch Stein from the Steve Kimmock band has joined up with me, and I've got and Ron Jenkins on bass, so it's a brand new group doing the Percolator. I call it Jim Weider's Project Percolator, and we've been out playing. There's some live tracks if you go on my website under JimWeider.com, you can hear the live tracks. I've got 3 live tracks of the new group up, and a brand new tune, a couple of new tunes up. So yeah, it's been fun, and it was something I wanted to change up and take another step musically, and it's going great.
So you've basically got 2 working bands happening at the moment then?
I do kind of. I'm more concentrated on this. When I do the blues festivals, I go out with my other group, and other than that, I've been mostly concentrating on Project Percolator.
Right. You've worked with such an impressive roll call of people over the years. Is there anyone you haven't worked with yet that you'd really like to get together with?
Boy, when it comes to I'd like to. I would love to go out and play with, like, when it comes to singers, I really like Van Morrison.
Mm.
And Van Morrison. And I've never really toured with Dylan. We've done a couple of. He sat in a few times. We've done a couple of some songs with him with the band, but I think that would be great. I can't think of anything else much. I mean, I'm pretty happy with doing what I'm doing with the players I'm playing with right now.
Oh, well, they're 2 excellent choices.
I do want to come down to Australia. I've never been there. Rick had offered it to me, Danko, and I was doing a movie with Levon, and I didn't do that. But I'm hoping I could get a record company to put some of my records out down there. Now I've got 3 out. And I'd love to come down to Australia. I know the people love the music down there, and I just need to find a company.
Yeah. Oh, look, we have a fantastic season of blues festivals in the first few months of the year, which would keep you busy down here for quite a while.
I would love to come down and play them.
Yeah.
And with the new group, I think they could cover jazz, blues, rock festivals. I hear it's beautiful down there, so I'd love to come down. Hope to come down soon.
I was interested to read you were involved in the invention of something called the King of Tone.
Oh boy, you heard of that?
Yeah, tell us about it.
It's a pedal that I've been using. That's right. Some guys from Australia bought it. It's a pedal that I used to use a tube screamer with my Deluxe when I wanted more. I had an old Blackface Deluxe for a long time, and I used a tube screamer, and I was always unhappy about losing the bottom end of it and losing some of my tone. So Mike Pierre from analogman.com who's a good friend, got together, and we decided to work on the pedal that wouldn't do that, and that would be more like my Deluxe cranked up, like with the Telly. And after about a year and losing some of my top of my hearing, we came up with this pedal, and it really works well. I've been using it ever since, and you don't lose your bottom end, and it works great. We're working on another pedal right now, and I've designed I've got a signature amp coming out with Ben Fargen Amp Company, the Fargen Amp Company out of California.
Mm-hmm.
That should be out. I've been using the prototype now, and it should be out hopefully by the end of the summer.
Fantastic.
Or by midsummer, which I'm really excited about, because it took a year and a half of sending the amp back and forth, and it's got the Fender sound, yet it's a little richer, and I'm designing the lead channel now to tweak it so you can get a really great, really singing tone with all kinds of instruments, and it's really working good. So that's coming out soon too.
Now, you've also done some guitar instructional videos in your time. How have you found that experience, discussing your trade to a camera?
It was. The first one was Get the Classic Fender Sound, which just came out as I just want to do it. I used to go over to my buddy's house who had an old 50s Telly and a bunch of old 50s amps and stuff, and we used to just listen to different amps and tones, a long time ago in the early 80s. And then I said, well, geez, maybe I should just do a video on this. And I went to Happy Traum, who lived here in Woodstock, and for homespun, and decided to do that. And it became one of the best sellers, which was, I just did it for fun, you know. I wasn't thinking about it, so I just went about my favorite guitar players from the first year. I started with Roy Buchanan with a 50s Tele, and then went up to Paul Burleson with the 55 Tele. I used the actual instrument and amp that went with each person who played with it, to James Burton, to up the line to Clapton, and it was I kind of did it as these people influenced me, and in homage to them, and it became like a classic. Fender started selling it, and it became just a fun thing. So it was fun to do, and I approached it like that, and I did that with rockabilly greats. I did the same thing with all the guys that influenced me, and used their instruments and the same amps in the same years. And I just approach it like this is a fun thing to do, and people seem to enjoy it.
And just before I let you go, Jim, what would be your best piece of career advice you could give to a budding musician?
Well, go back and listen to the roots players, and just go back. There's so much out there now, and video-wise, that if you get stuck, but just go back and listen to like the Albert Kings, the Freddie Kings, Chuck Berry, totally, and Scotty Moore, and learn those root styles first, and learn your instrument, learn the neck of the guitar, take your time, and good to practice your scales with a metronome so you get your time good, but going back and learning the root stuff first, and if you get stuck, take some lessons from somebody to guide you along that path, and just learn the basics before you go learn a bunch of flying licks. Take your time.
Sound advice. And what's on your books for the rest of the year?
Just Project Percolator. We're playing the record out, and the record just got released throughout Europe. Hopefully, we're going to tour Europe this fall with the Percolator record, and then they're shopping it in Japan, which I hope it gets released in Australia, and we hope to come down there.
Tremendous. Well, best of luck with that. We do hope it does see release down here. I might see if I can send you some contact information of some distributors down here, if you like.
I would love that.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Would love that, and anybody who's interested to put out the records would be great.
Terrific. Thanks,
Sean.
Thanks for your time, Jim. Much appreciated.
And hopefully we'll see you soon.
Hopefully. We'll keep our fingers crossed.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Ta-da.